Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all to this exclusive e-seminar being organized by the Institute of Directors, Ghana, on the topic, Managing Cyber Risk in the Era of Technology. I believe very much that we are very grateful to God for this opportunity for us to meet once again to sharpen our risk and cyber security. My name is Fred Aite, the CEO of the Institute of Directors, Ghana. At this stage, I would like to invite Dr. Rejoice Odonteji, a member of the Institute of Directors, Ghana, to give us the open prayer, and then we'll set things going. Thank you. You're all welcome. Dr. Rejoice, I yield.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here once again to sharpen our thoughts. I humbly request that we have a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you this afternoon for this session that is up again to aid us and give us knowledge on how to manage cyber risks in the era of technology. This era comes with its own disruptions, and we need to be equipped to be able to manage our corporate strategies and get things done the right way. I pray that you yourself will be our guide, give us insight, that everything that we learn here will add value to our respective organizations and the communities that we work with. In Jesus' name, I pray with thanksgiving. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Dr. Rejoice. And once again, you're all welcome to this afternoon's seminar, which is exclusive, and it's on managing cyber risk in the era of technology. This is the Institute of Directors Ghana. The Institute of Directors Ghana is a corporate governance institute mandated under the Professional Bodies Act of 1973 to champion director professionalism and development through advocacy, training, and research in good corporate governance practices for the benefit of organizations, stakeholders, and prosperity of Mother Ghana. Indeed, let me indulge you to sort of give you some of the things or services that the Institute provides. As an institute, we advise on appropriate corporate governance practices. We carry out orientations of new boards which have been set up. We provide training for directors and managers on corporate governance, leadership, and management. We help organizations to compose boards and develop directors. As an institute, we also prepare board manuals for organizations. We carry out board effectiveness assessment and reviews. Indeed, we also publish books on corporate governance, especially we have a book on Directors Handbook we call Best Practice Guide, and a book also on CEO. And then we provide policy and advocacy on corporate governance. We also have a directors register where we refer, or people come for referral in terms of when they want non-executive directors to serve on their board. As I indicated, as an institute also, we have some corporate partners who also support us. And I would like to mention a few. We have the Bank of Ghana, we have Quaye, we also have GNPC, we have Zoom, Lion, among others, who support our programs. And also as corporate members, we are very grateful to our corporate members and our members as well. We believe also very much that we welcome our members and also welcome the public. We also welcome the media who have all joined this program. As a CEO, I would also want to indulge you, please, to sort of acknowledge the president of the Institute of Directors Ghana and council of the Institute for the support that we also receive in ensuring that we have our programs organized. And such program as today. So I haven't acknowledged our corporate members and our partners who support us. As I indicated, we are also very grateful to council of the Institute and also members of council for their support and also We have some of them on this particular program. At this stage, please, I'll indulge you to give some administrative directives. The administrative directives that I want us to look at, because it's a virtual program and coming by classic virtual, please, I would recommend that do your best to manage your microphones to minimize background noise. Please also manage your cameras just to ensure that people see the right places as you expect them to see. And then please, you can put your comments in the chat box. I will shortly go through the program outline, and then you see that there'll be a session for Q&A. And then I believe very much that we'll have ample time for us to interact with our main speaker to get some kind of further insights as we go through the seminar this afternoon. We have a technical team supporting this program, and the telephone number will come on or will be in the chat box, so that if you're having a challenge technically, you can call the telephone number for you to be able to sort of keep in tune and keep online. I believe that you will see the telephone numbers on your screen. Thank you so very much. Once again, welcome. At this stage, I will put up the program outline. We have had an opening prayer and also some introduction that I've done. What I'll be doing is I will introduce our main speaker for today, and then the main speaker will do the presentation to us, and we'll have a Q&A session. And we believe very much that within a matter of probably 2 hours, we should be able to finish the program. Thank you so very much, and you are all welcome. Once again, my name is Fred Aiti, the CEO of the Institute of Directors. At this stage, I would like to introduce our main speaker for today's seminar. Our speaker's name is Mr. Joseph Quaye. Mr. Quaye is a cybersecurity analyst with expertise in vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, digital forensics, network architecture and systems review, incident response, malware development, and reverse engineering. Indeed, he also has skills and expertise in payment card industry professionalism. He has in-depth understanding of system security assessment, cybercrime, and cybersecurity trends and data protection issues confronting any local organization or international organization. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Mr. Mr. Joseph Quaye, who is our main speaker for today's year seminar. Mr. Quaye, we are very grateful to have you, and please, I yield to you. Thank you very much, Mr. Quaye.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the lovely introduction. You almost changed my name to Robert. I think Robert is not a bad name. I may start adapting to it now. Thank you very much for
my sincere apologies.
It's fine. Thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you to everyone on this webinar and on this call. It is a privilege to be here, and then we are hoping that at the end of this session we'll learn some interesting things, and it will be quite interactive. We'll both learn from each other. Look, we are here to discuss or basically look at managing cyber risk within the era of technology, right? I would very much like for this session to be interactive as much as possible. So even though we are going by a laid down procedure whereby we will put our questions up when we have them in our chat box and all of that, do not be surprised that in the course of the presentation, I may call on some of us, right, who are on the call, to be able to maybe volunteer an idea or whatever it is that they believe that they can share to make the class more interesting. So, for example, I see a Hilda answer on the call. Madam Hilda, you can temporarily release your mic so that you can speak. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Fantastic. So thank you very much for the feedback. So similar to how I called Madam Hilda, I will likely be doing the same for some of us in the course of this webinar. Okay. Right. So let's get on to the main thing. The main activity. Before we start, can you confirm, Madam Hilda, from where you sit, can you see my screen? Can you see the slides? Do you see the title? I'm just using you as my sound check. Can you see this? Hello, Madam Hilda. Can you see my screen? Or anyone who's on the call, if you can just temporarily.
Madam Hilda may have some
I can see.
Yeah, I can see.
Right, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, with that being said, look, today's webinar session, we are just going to look at a few issues, but this is the order in which we will look at them, right? Let's talk about cyber risk in the era of technology. So we want to first and foremost understand what cyber risk are, what they are, and this whole term of cyber risk, what we are trying to say, what it means. We also want to have a look at, or we want to also consider how you typically identify some of these cyber risks. Okay, how we typically identify what these cyber risks are in the cyberspace that we find ourselves, and even our typical work environment. Then we want to look at how to deal with these risks, because we are not just interested in just pointing out issues. We want to see how we can deal with them. And then most importantly, we want to look at one tabletop activity, an activity that will help us rack our brains a little bit. That when we are presented with some of these, risk, right? How do we deal with them? How do they look like? So this is basically going to be the outline of our activities for today. Before I start, I'd like to introduce talk a little bit about my company, right? And where I am coming from. So I am the cybersecurity lead with eCrime Bureau. And what eCrime Bureau is a cybersecurity and investigations company which was established in 2011. We've done quite a lot since that time. Won a few awards along the way, but most importantly, we established a laboratory that we focus a lot of our resources in order to provide top-notch cybersecurity and then digital forensic services. In terms of people and organizations, we've worked with quite a few, both local and international. So on the local scene, any of these organizations you see on the left, we have done some work or collaborated in one way or the other in resolving issues within a country. So whether it is the Criminal Investigations Department or the Bank of Ghana, eCrime Bureau has assisted in either cybersecurity or some digital investigations to unravel and solve problems. In terms of the international scene, we've done quite a lot of work also with some of these international organizations you see here, from the Council of Europe to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. We've been involved heavily in some of the activities they've conducted and some of the raids and investigations, and even some security audits and assessments. We've been involved in one way or the other. So we've had our hands busy with a lot. In terms of local representation and partners, just in case you would like to verify if the presenter is making up all of these things, these are some of the organizations we've worked with locally. You can give any of them a call and ask about eCrime and what it is that we do. And I believe that they will have a lot to say in credit of our services. So recently, so just a few screenshots of our activities spanning across our main operating center, which is in Adenta, and also our laboratories, which are across the country. From the pictures you are looking at, look, these are some of the pictures from our lab, where you can see some team members, with these dashboards monitoring all sorts of cyber incidents and whatnot. It's the same lab that we also do our investigations when it comes to the digital space. So when people commit crime in the digital space, we are called in to sometimes also help unravel the issues around it, right? We've helped and we've tried to move and use our advocacy to push the cybersecurity and then digital investigations across the country. And one way we do that is through training. So we've established a lab in Quaye University, Kumasi, to basically help the Kumasi and then the northern part of the country with trainings and also with digital investigations and cybersecurity services. The same way in the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping and Training Center, we have established a lab there that we train, so state-of-the-art lab with computers and all the things that you need to be able to better understand some of these issues we deal with. So the trainings are mostly very hands-on, and they've been occurring at the Kofi Annan Peacekeeping Center for quite a bit now. We hope to expand to even further places just so that we can, increase cybersecurity and digital investigations as a focus within the country and beyond. In terms of recently, one thing we've been doing is what we call the managed cybersecurity services. And in short, all it simply means is if an organization is going into cybersecurity, which is in like trying to address their risk in their cyber environment, we can take some of that work off the organization's hand. So maybe you want to be able to run scans in your environment periodically to identify issues. We can do it for you on some kind of retainership where maybe perhaps every month, every year, based on your schedule and your budget, right? We can do some of these things. So basically the managed cybersecurity services is looking at outsourcing your cybersecurity needs, right, to eCrime to help you meet them. And these are some of the things that we are doing, at least what is the most recent. And I would really enjoy, or I would really like for participants or delegates on this call who are interested to further call at the end of the session. I'll display the contact information at the end of my slides. So let's get to the main activity of the day. The main activity of the day is talking about cyber risk and what they are. If you're expecting that I was come to lecture and talk a lot and you'll be disappointed, this class will be a bit different. So what cyber risks are, we are going to address it with a case study. And the case study, everyone should be involved. So Mr. Osman Abdel, I see you on the call. Reverend Francis, I see you. Richmond Kojo, I see all of you, right? I want you, Madam Caroline Otu, I want you all to be involved in this case study we're about to discuss. And this is a case study. So the case study says, and we start, as an employee within the sales department of a multinational company, connect their corporate, connect to the corporate Wi-Fi with her laptop. So she uses her laptop to connect to the corporate Wi-Fi. And once she does that, she visits a website. The website is called linetorrent.pro. It's a very known website for downloading torrent files and other files that mostly are obtained, like they are pirated, so pirated content. And she downloads the latest episode of a show called Euphoria, right? Hoping to watch it. Now, after she downloads this episode of Euphoria, right? Let's see what happens next. After downloading, right, the file that obviously is the video that she wants to watch, she clicks to watch it, and the file is, there's a prompt that is asking her that before she can watch the video, she needs to download some special video player. Well, so she obliges and downloads the video player, and when she clicks the video player to watch it, nothing happens. The video doesn't play, and suddenly her computer has rebooted. So when the computer reboots or restarts and it comes back up, there is this message, beautiful message on the screen. And the message says, oops, your files have been encrypted. And there are some instructions there that show what she should do next. Now, before we go on, right, I want to ask Madam Eunice Asante, what do you think has happened here? Now, because of the time, if I don't get feedback, I'll probably move on quite quickly. Madam Eunice, if you can hear me, what do you think has happened here?
I think cyber attack.
You think cyber attack, and you are right. So what has occurred here is what we call a ransomware attack. And then with a ransomware attack, it means that this lady in the case study has clicked a particular file. That file is malicious in nature, and what it does, or what we call the ransomware, what it does is it goes through a person's computer and basically encrypts all your data. And if you want access back to your data, you have to pay money in order to get it. So if you look at the notes that she has on the screen, they're actually giving instructions on how she can pay money, usually in some kind of cryptocurrency, in order to get her files back. This is a prevalent issue that is happening within the country, but we will not delve so much in that. We want to understand a few things. So the case study is out there. Madam's machine is now, all her files are encrypted after rebooting. You saw how the case study started, and we've seen how we've arrived there. So the question I want to ask you is, what kind of issues or weaknesses that did you detect, right, in the whole case study about the company she works with that led to this situation whereby right now all her files seems to be encrypted? If you have a contribution, you can raise your hand, I can call you. If not, I'll call out names. So the question is, what went wrong? What went wrong? And that is my job. And we want to establish and understand what went wrong here. So any suggestions? If you have an opinion, you can just raise your hand and then go ahead.
Okay, so my hand is up.
All right, so go ahead.
Yeah. I think the first thing I recognized is that she was using her personal computer for the company, for the company's activities, which I think is a security risk.
Fantastic, you've done a good job. So what you have identified is, look, it seems, and the communication seems to suggest that she may have used a personal machine to connect to the company Wi-Fi. And that can be a risk. Why? It can be an issue because, we don't know what's on your machine. And your machine can cause issues when it connects to our network. So look, that's a very fantastic opinion. Okay, thank you very much. Right, I see a chat in the chat section that J-Saki is saying that the company's cybersecurity is porous. Is there any reason why you are saying this here? What is the exact reason? Why is it porous? Yes, we've already established that you can't be able to bring your machine onto the network just like that, but she has. So it's porous. What issues are you picking up to see that? I don't see the full name. I see J-Saki inside the chat. So would you want to comment on this? If not, I'll just simply move on, right? Then to Madam Adelaide, right? Madam Adelaide, I see your name, Madam Adelaide Ajepon, if you're on the call. What do you see as something wrong here in this scenario that led to this issue? If Madam Adelaide is taking a bit of time to respond, I'll ask Mr. Wilson Labi, right, to be able to take over. Sir Wilson.
Hello, sir.
Hello, Madam Adelaide.
Sir, I think she flouted the company's policy on internet.
Fantastic. You think she flouted the company policy?
Yes, please.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I think that is also true. But Madam, before you go, Ali, why do you think she flouted it too? Is she just a stubborn person?
I think so, please.
Sure. See, there are quite a few factors that are at play here. And because I know that you all have a lot of opinions, if you have any of the issues you think we've not spotted, you can put it in the chat as we go on. But one thing is very clear, that you clearly see a lot of issues within this setup, okay, for which you think has allowed for this to happen. Someone is saying that, look, she thinks that the company security is very poor. Someone is saying that it shouldn't be possible for someone to just connect your laptop just like that. In fact, someone might even go ahead and say that even for some of the websites that she visited that caused this issue, it should be blocked within the company's premises. Someone is, Madam Adelaide is talking about she herself, right, flouting the policies. I'm asking if it was just a stubbornness causing that. She says that, look, it could be part. It could be possible that, look, they have company policies, but the thing is, how many employees know about some of these policies? Are they educated about it? You don't have to spot it. The reasons are many. That's the point. That's the point of what I'm trying to say. The reasons are many, but at the end of the day, it's led to some kind of harm. This exercise that we just did, this simple case study we just did, this is what it means to do. This is what this cyber risk and this topic we are talking about is all about, right? All the issues you identified, these are issues that introduce risk to a company by virtue of using cyber or using technology within their environment. So by not even going through definitions and long things, you understand what cyber risks are. And these are the issues, and you did it yourself. I'm looking at some of the comments inside there, and they're quite interesting. Osman, I like what you typed. Clicking on the website that you don't know well about, that's all good. I think the organization, Stephen is saying, I think the organization should put in some restrictions to prevent downloads from such sites. So even downloading. So, team, you are all smart and you are all intelligent, right? All these things you are saying are correct. So, in talking about cyber risk, you find that, look, automatically you'll be dealing with some of these terms. Okay, so now we are from the case study side, we are looking at some of the terms you are likely to see when you are dealing with what we call risk in general or cyber risk. So one of the terms you see is a term called threat, right? And when we talk about threat, we are talking about anything that has the ability to cause danger. So this one's not the IT definition. What I'm saying now is the general definition of a threat. Anything that has the ability to cause danger to you, right? That's what the threat is. So in that same vein, when you're talking about threats in the cyberspace, it's anything that has the ability to cause danger to our data or the systems that that process our data, like our computers, right? And when you look at another thing that you are likely to come across, which we've already used, because I asked you, I used the word, I said, what are some of the weaknesses that you saw that led to this happening, and what we call vulnerabilities, right, or weakness. So weaknesses, vulnerabilities, and it's one of the common risk terms you are likely to see. The last thing, right, is likelihood. So when you're talking about risk, the truth is that in all reality, right, it is a combination of all these three words that you'll be seeing here. That's what risk is, and cyber risk is. So likelihood is talking about the probability that something happens. If you put these three things together, it's what you get the definition of what cyber risk or risk are. So risk in the end is the likelihood, okay, of a given threat exercising a particular vulnerability. So long and short is that you are saying that risk is the likelihood that some threat out there that can harm your machine, okay, will take advantage of a weakness, okay, will take advantage of a weakness to impact your organization wrongly. That is what risk is. And so by extension, cyber risk is simply the same definition. However, we are considering the cyberspace as where it is happening. So this same risk, okay, the likelihood of a threat taking advantage of some weakness or vulnerability to impact you negatively within the cyberspace, that is what cyber risk is. Mr. Robert Mensah, right? Is what I'm saying, is it clear? Is it making sense? Right, I'll wait for Mr. Robert.
Yes, right on point.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. And the ultimate, thank you so much, sir. The ultimate aim of risk is to be able to manage risk, right? So if I were to ask you a question, Mr. Roberts, very quick one, right? Do you think that we will ever get to a point where crime does not exist in this world?
No, we'll not get there until we get there.
Why? Why is it not possible? Why is it not possible? If we get paid the police enough, won't it be possible at any point in time?
As you try to come up with solutions to existing crimes, new ones evolve. People will always want to
Exactly. Thank you very much. You may mute your mic now. Okay. Thank you so much. So look, the truth is, with risk in general, something you can never take away entirely. So I'm going to pause for a second because there's a bit of feedback coming from someone's mic. Can you quickly check your mics to see if they are muted? Thank you. Right. So it's the same way with cyber risk. As far as there's always going to be new technology, there's going to be new tools, new everything in technology, right? Right now, you can see people have fridges that even have access to the internet. So as far as there's going to be new technology, there's always going to be risk. That is why in the end of this course, the idea is that we just want to know how to manage the risk. So these cyber risks we are talking about, we just want to learn how to manage them, right? Now, we are going to take our section of the slides or the session or the presentation is going to talk about certain examples that have happened across the world. And then, so we are taking it from the world perspective, we come to Africa's perspective, and then we'll come to the Ghanaian perspective. To highlight on certain examples that have happened that show cyber risk at play. And I always like to start off with addressing this, on the screen, right? This slide on the screen. So, Madam Mary Japan, right? If you can hear me, do you recognize any company in this box that I'm showing?
Marriott Hotel.
Marriott Hotel, fantastic. Thank you very much. And I'm sure that any of you who look into this box can see a few companies you recognize. So what do we want to establish with this thing I've shared? Well, we want to establish two things. The first thing being that this is actually a chart of companies. So the data is as at 2018, 2019. The data is showing companies that suffered data breaches. And if you don't know what data breaches are, it is some kind of attack or some kind of situation that at the end of the day, people's data on their computer systems is accessed by people who are not authorized to do that. So what you are seeing is companies that have suffered data breaches. And you see the size of the bubbles you are seeing is equivalent to how much data was lost as a result of these data breaches. So in the case of Marriott Hotels, they lost about 500 million unique records. And what are these records? Some included financial information like people's credit card and whatnot, by virtue of them using the Marriott Hotels. Some included people's personal addresses. So the first thing I wanted to establish is that all these companies have suffered data breaches as at 2019. That leads me to the second thing I want to establish. The second thing I want to establish is that if these companies, who some of them have if they declare their profit margins are sometimes bigger than even the country's GDP, Ghana's GDP, if all of these companies have suffered some kind of breach, which mostly are a result of vulnerabilities or risk that are within their environment, to end up in this screen of ours. And the question is, who are you and who is your organization? And how well are you prepared to not end up on this box? So the second point I wanted to establish was a humbling point, which is to say that it doesn't matter how you think your organization is prepared or how much you have dedicated to getting the latest tools and paying the latest security professionals. Everyone has cyber risk. And these companies, some who are bigger than you, have all ended up in these breaches. So the second thing is accept that cyber risk is something that you, as you sit here on this webinar, your organization may be suffering from, but in different, varying in different skills. So that's what we wanted to establish here. The second thing we want to establish, or the example we want to talk about, is something that happened somewhere in December 2020. And this happened as a result of it was a breach that was caused as a result of a particular software produced by this company, SolarWinds. The name of the software I'm pasting inside the chat is SolarWinds Orion, or Orion, however you want to pronounce it. And what that tool does, or what that software does, is that they realize that IT teams, they normally suffer because they have to manage so many systems. They have to configure people's users in the system. They have to configure a network device, so many things. So they decided that, you know what, why don't we develop a software that by connecting to it once, you can connect to all the things you control within the typical IT environment. And so from one place, connecting and logging in with your password in one sitting, you have access to everything. So that was the software, and that was what it was intended to do, and was created by this company. And it was a good software. It still is in a way, but something happened. You see, when you design a software like that, you also draw the attention of other people. Because you see, if the software works in such a way that if at one point you can connect to multiple systems, then some criminal is there thinking, if I'm able to breach this software, then that means that by virtue of that, I'll have access to the entire organization's assets and all the things they are controlling. So this is the idea that started growing in hackers and criminals' minds, and then they decided to take advantage of it. How did they do that? Well, it was very simple. I know that most of us have been there, and then our phones and our laptops will tell us our machines are outdated. So they want to pull a new update. And sometimes you say yes, sometimes you say no. But when you say yes, the truth is, what happens? When you say yes, all that simply happens is that your computer will connect to the internet and go to whichever software you require an update, the manufacturer's website, and go and check, is there a new version? If there's a new version, it will download it to your system, and then you are updated with a new software. This is how normally updating works. This is how the criminals took advantage of it to breach this software and anyone who was using the software. What they did was that there's the computers that contain the update files on the internet where the client connect to or the customers connect to and pull the latest version. They went to that location and went to change. So they were able to gain access to that machine and change the legitimate updated software with their own version. So when people were on their machine and they saw that, oh, the latest version is out, just update it. When they clicked the update, unknown to them, they were downloading the one that the hackers had replaced, which was theirs. And anyone who did an update between a particular period, that was between June, of May, June, July of 2020, everyone ended up with a version of this software that was controlled by the hackers. And by virtue of that, the hackers had control of all their systems. There were companies in Ghana that were affected by this, a lot of them. And this was a global issue. It affected almost all the arms of government within the US. It's the Defense Department, almost everyone. It's an example. And all of these were as a result of cyber risk that were within either the company's model that led to some of these things happening. Let's come to Africa, okay? Let's come to Africa. I know that I would want to keep things interactive, but for the purpose of also balancing things with time, we'll have a lot of chance to interact during the Q&As. But in the course of my presentation, if you have anything that bothers your mind, please put it in the chat. I will address it as I move on. Let's come to Africa, some of the examples here. So in Africa, if you look at the left side, two Kenyan university students, they were in university, so it wasn't like they had even graduated, right? Were able to hack into a Kenyan bank by taking advantage of some of these same cyber risk and vulnerabilities we are talking about. And the first time they went into the bank, they were able to steal $228,000. These are all kids under 25 years, and this is how much they stole as a result of the vulnerabilities they took advantage of. And they got away with it. That's the key point. They got away with everything. They would only be caught because one of them went to indirectly go and brag about what they had done online. And also, they decided to go and hit the same bank again. And when they were doing it this time, because they had done it before and because of the intel that the bank had gotten from social media, they were able to get the police involved. And then they were, yes, Madam Hilda is asking a very beautiful question. I will address that soon. She wants to know how you are able to detect if the update is from the right source. We'll address that. Okay, thank you. Right. They were able to steal the money when they came back this time because they were prepared for them. They caught them. So I'm using these examples to drive home a point. The point being that if you thought cyber risk were far away from us, back in the day, we used to hear about these things happening in the US and whatnot. It has changed. It's coming close to shores. If you look at also the second example that is on your screen, the right side, I'm sure most of you know this guy. He goes by the name Hush Puppy. Was quite, a social media, it was very popular on social media, mostly because he was flaunting a lot of wealth, right? He had money and he knew how to spend it. So even in this picture, if you can see, he's in a private jet and he was chattering all over the place and posting his pictures. He would later be arrested by the police in Dubai and extradited to the US for judgment. And they have prosecuted him. Why? What did he do? Well, his was a very simple, amongst many things, what he liked doing mostly was doing these kind of email scams, whereby he pretends to be a legitimate business you are dealing with. So if your company is maybe dealing with a particular vendor, they supply you certain goods every month. He pretends to be that vendor, starts engaging you over email communications. And then before you know it, oh, this vendor is telling you that, oh, I've changed my accounting details, so kindly send the monies for this batch of supplies to this. You send the money only for the vendor to say, hey, you've not paid about what's happening, to investigate to find out that someone was impersonating one person in between your line of communication. So that's what he was mostly doing. Again, what he was doing was not magic. What he was doing, it mostly occurred and happened with organizations who their cyber risks were quite high and they were not addressing. So he took advantage of it and then he was able to amass a lot of wealth. Let's come to Ghana. In Ghana, the issues are many, but one of the issues that have been prevalent for a long time have been the mobile money scams. Now, the mobile money scams, I'm not here to tell you about how these scams operate and whatnot, but I'm here to tell you that there is an evolution of the mobile money scams. Right? And when I say the evolution of the mobile money scams, what I mean is that it used to be that they used to send these kind of silly, like amateurish messages. Send a message from an MTN number or no number telling me that your money has been deposited wrongly. You know, they are trying to imitate the mobile money messages. But now they have advanced. And what I mean by that is now they are able to what? Trigger the mobile money. You see, when you are doing the event, you're going to a mobile money vendor to take out money. They are able to trigger the payment prompt, the one that comes on your screen when you're taking from a vendor, straight away. So that means they don't even have to do it. They can just trigger this prompt straight away. And if you enter your PIN, your money is gone. And they do it under a lot of circumstances. Some of them do it around places where people come and do mobile money. So you are dealing with a vendor, you've asked that, oh, you want to take 500 from your account. The criminal standing nearby has heard this. And he's able to, so most of them use merchant SIMs that they force you to register to do this. Others also use some softwares. But he's heard you mention your number, and then he triggers the money prompt that he has to take the money from, like trigger the money prompt with this SIM on your phone. So you think that the person you are dealing with, the vendor you are dealing with, is the one who has triggered the prompt. So there's this thing I do that people don't understand, whereby when the prompt comes, I always ask, is your company, and I mention the name of the company, and then they confirm. Because you may receive this prompt while standing by a Momo vendor, and then before you know it, actually someone standing next to you who has triggered the prompt. You type in your PIN, the money will go. And then the vendor, and then another one will come. And you're like, why am I doing it twice? Not knowing that the first was by a hacker or some criminal standing nearby. So this is some of the dynamics that the Momo scams have also what they've taken, right? In regards to things happening locally. And then also, from what is happening locally, a lot of people are losing access to your accounts. Either it is Facebook, WhatsApp, they are taking over their accounts. People are taking over their accounts. And you may have seen this happen. Even though you don't really pay attention, you realize that on one group or one particular group you're on, someone is chatting in a particular way that's not like them. Suddenly they're advertising about some world remits and whatnot. It's about some money scams, Bitcoin. What's happening? This guy never talks. If you've seen that, chances are that the person's account has been taken over by someone. And the way they take over is very simple. Basically, they are taken over by using the same approach that WhatsApp uses to register like new users, where they send you your code, and you, like normally you are setting up your account, they send a code for you to confirm. So what these criminals are simply doing is finding a way to, they create WhatsApp new, and then they put your number there. So the code will come to your phone, and they find ways to get you to divulge that code to them. So all these are examples of ways people have used to try and trick people to give them the code that has been sent to their phone, unknowing to them that someone is trying to take over their WhatsApp account. So this guy is saying, hi, I'm sorry, I sent you a 6-digit code by mistake. Can you pass it to me? It's urgent. You think you are helping a friend. Because mostly when this message is coming, it's coming from someone who you trust, whose account has already been taken over. So you think you are dealing with your friend, but it's someone else behind it. You test the person the code, they type it in, WhatsApp thinks they are the legitimate you. And before you know it, you are logged out of your own WhatsApp account. All of these things that are happening as a result of risk, cyber risk in our environment. And the examples are quite many. This particular example is talking about an ATM fraud, right? Whereby people are able to make copies of people's ATM or credit cards, and then are able to use those copies to shop on other people's behalf. And they usually do this using what we call skimming devices. And the skimming devices are devices that they place on ATMs so that when you insert a card, especially the ones that don't have a chip, they're able to make a copy of it. So if you look at this video, right, very short video, right, you see that someone went to Italy, right, and he spotted one. So just watch a skimmer in action. What you just saw is a skimmer, right? Its job is to mimic the looks of the actual ATM's mouth, like the mouthpiece you connect it to. And when you connect your card, it makes a copy of your card as it's passing through. And mostly it affects the cards that don't have the chip on them, right? The chip on them. And with this information and also some additional information, like maybe being able to place cameras that will capture your PIN, it can be able to use your ATM just like that. It's as simple as that, right? I found out just a year ago that Now, even the new cards that have come, and some of you, if you're on the call on this webinar, right, you can pull out your cards, your debit cards, the ones issued by a bank. And then you see that there are certain cards that have this symbol on them. It's not Wi-Fi, right? What it simply means is that these cards have what we call near-field communication. It means you can pay on certain payment points without physically interacting your card. It's almost like wireless, touch, you just tap something and you pay. I've come to find out that on some Chinese store, someone is selling this device that can actually, so if you power on this device and you pass by someone who has a card that has this symbol on it, has a near field communicator on it, by passing by them alone, you can make a copy of their card with this device. And the device, how much is this? It's just $25. These are examples of issues that are happening around. And these are what we call the cyber risk, right? And these are real cases that happen all across the world, okay, and country, Ghana, that are taking advantage of these risk issues. I wanted to do this so that we situate what we are learning or we are talking about in the realm of the real things that are happening, not just I'm telling you that people could or they can do this. This is what is happening. So now let's look at how we can identify some typical risk issues when it comes to the cyber, right? So in this part of this section of the webinar, we are going to talk about the various, risk issues we can pick up from cyber, right? And when it comes to cyber, all the risk issues, or most of the risk issues, are centered around these three factors. One is the people, the second is the process, the third is the technology. So people is looking at people who work within organization, right? The process is looking at the way the organization does their things, especially when it comes to IT operations. And then the technology is looking at the kind of tools, resources that they use, right, to ensure IT services are developed. These three things are what normally carry the risk around organizations, and it's our job to identify these issues from all these peers and address them in our environment. Let's start with the people. So with the people, when you're talking about people, we're talking about, look, the employees, right? An employee is basically anyone getting paid to do work for a company. They can be contract staff, they can be full-time employees, they can be cleaners, security men. At the end of the day, they are working to ensure the company's growth. They are all employees. So we are going to look at a few risk scenarios around employees, right? The first risk scenario is about employees disclosing information by falling victim to what we call social engineering. And what is social engineering? Social engineering is basically psychologically manipulating people so that you can get them to divulge information that normally they wouldn't have shared with you. Not just information, you can get them to also give perhaps money or take an action that normally they wouldn't have done. So I would like to pause on this section to show you a video of social engineering in action. And then they all fall under what the people risk we are looking at. So give me a second, let me pause and I'll share a video for all our viewing. I've seen some questions there. They are not ignored. I will touch on every one of them. So Madam Hilda and then Madam Adelaide, your questions are very much going to be answered, and they are good questions as well. So just give me a second. Let me quickly share this, and then hopefully we can move on. I'm going to play a particular video, but for this video, I have multiple examples of social engineering. This just happens to be my favorite because it captures it best. So what you're going to watch is basically a journalist who has gone to a hacker convention, a convention for hackers, and is offering himself for someone to do social engineering on them, right? And I want you to see the dynamics at play. We'll quickly address it and then we'll move on, right? So let's go ahead. And what is going to happen is that this person doing social engineering is going to try and call this journalist, right? This journalist phone company. So just like in Ghana, maybe if you are using MTN, he's going to call MTN and pretend to be the man's wife and hope that the company can help her achieve something sensitive. Let's see it play out.
And an internet connection.
Do you want to do a sample phishing call?
What's phishing?
Phishing is voice solicitation, and basically what you do is you use the phone to extract information or data points that can be used in a later attack.
Let's do it. Who are you going to call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider and see if I can get them to give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm going to spoof from your number, so it's going to look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. my husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry. I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for uses information and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30
At
seconds,
gmail.com?
Jessica gets access to my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message? Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Shh. Oh, I'm not on there either? So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account.
Jess uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry, so there's no password on my account right now? Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my password.
Thank you so much for your help today.
So she just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her fed after this. All right,
Right. So if you watch that video, right, that's basically social engineering in a nutshell, right? That is social engineering in a nutshell. And Madam Ali, quickly, can you tell us what happened? What do you think happened? Okay, Madam Ali is taking a bit of time, so we are going to switch on right on to someone else. Madam Mary Japon, if you are with us, what happened?
Oh, okay. She was able to get information without the other side verifying or calling the other party.
Fantastic. How was she able to do it?
By faking the cry of the baby. I mean,
fantastic, fantastic. That's it. Thank you so much. Right. So what did she do? She used a baby crying in the background to generate some sympathy points. Used that to make it convincing that she was really a mother in distress, and the other person helped. This is what it means to socially manipulate people. And as far as you work with people in your organization, as far as whichever firewall you have in place is going to be manned by people, understand that these risks, they are also susceptible to it. And even you can do some of these things. Why? Just go to YouTube, type ambulance sounds, and then play an ambulance sound, and you hear the sound playing, and make a call to someone. Right? And call the person. You can do it as a drill and call them and tell them that, hey boss, I beg you, they just mentioned that your mother has been reported, or your sister, your uncle, whatever you want to put there, has been sent to the hospital. But this, when you make a call like that to someone who is even head of security, whatever it is, at an organization, and they are supposed to know better, in that moment, you can get this person to be vulnerable to take an action, either to move from where they are or whatever, or look, the scenarios are very simple. The whole idea is that as far as people are people, you can always manipulate them and take advantage of their emotions through different things. And this is one thing that can affect people that work within your company, especially your frontline staff, people who are handling people, that your customers or people who come for the first time in your organization, your cleaners. If they are not aware of some of these things, people would always take advantage of them to divulge information that they are not supposed to give out or cause them to take an action. Looking at also the risk of people, we're talking about the risk of disclosure of information by abusing social media. Some of us share too much, we share so much information. So if you look at this image, it's a very nice image, right? Two colleagues at work, it's Friday, hey, it's Friday, let's take pictures. But what is wrong here? What is wrong here is here. You see, if some of you who have detective eyes can actually read out the words on this laptop here. And this is what happens with some of these risks that we don't consider. When people are taking pictures at the workplace and they are sharing on social media, have you considered the board at the back of your presentation? Have you considered that you are in your company's war room and all your strategic decisions are on the board, and you've taken a picture and you've shared it? So this is something that people don't really think about, but it's also a risk that comes with working with people. And it's one of the things I wanted to point out. Those are my work colleagues, by the way. They are not leaking any information. This is part of activities. And the social engineering, right? It is not limited to just some of these phishing calls that you saw. It can also be through technology. So normally when this social engineering, they try to use to harvest information, like your username and your password, through technology, they normally call it phishing. So phishing is like all the means in which they try to do to get access to your account details or even maybe your credit card information. And they do that by impersonating legitimate organizations, right? So in this case, if you look at some of these emails here, like this email and the one on the right, they are some email staff can receive telling them that maybe they need to, I don't know, change their security settings. Other than that, they will not get mails anymore. Their inbox is full. And all of these things, usually they come with some kind of action button that if you click, it takes you somewhere, and that somewhere is it takes you where you trust. So you go and see an interface that looks similar to where you are used to logging in as. So you think you are logging in. By the time you log in and put in your details there, the criminals have captured your details. So it's also social engineering. But the idea of phishing is that it's more geared towards capturing a specific type of information, which is your username and password or your credit card information. So the one fascinating tool I saw was this one, the one in the middle. It's a tool that has been advertised as a tool that lets you hack anyone's Facebook and can gain access to anyone's account, see their messages. But these criminals are not stupid. They know that people will fall for things like this. So what happens is that people downloaded this tool thinking they can hack people's Facebook, and they will tell you, oh, put the profile of the person you want to hack there. When you put it there, they say click, and then they'll tell you that hacking 50% complete. Now it gets to 90%. They tell you, oh, you put your username and password there, so because you need to log in as you, so that they can get access to Facebook and be able to hack the person. You type in your credentials and you find out that you were actually the target of the entire process, and they've harvested your details. So when it comes to phishing, which is an example of social engineering, right? All these pages you are seeing, they are not legitimate pages. This is a Gmail page. This is an Outlook page for Microsoft services, and all of these are fake pages. That someone must have clicked the link here and they will type in their details, thinking they are signing into your corporate environment, but at the end of the day, the criminal has taken advantage and captured their details, right? There's also, when you're talking about people risk, there's also the risk of insider threat, right? That means an employee who by their action or their inaction, they do something that causes harm to the company, and it can never be ruled out. So in this case, right, this is an example of an insider threat, and this one's a malicious insider. This lady who was working at Stanbic apparently was taking money meant for customers who are supposed to take it to their bank, to the bank. She was taking it to them on their behalf, but it never made its way to the bank, and it was a lot of money, right, in the millions of cedis. So she pocketed it. Eventually, she would be arrested and then trialed. She served 8 years. I think she should be coming out soon. But the whole idea is that, look, she did this because she was working within the company. So every time you are thinking about risk, understand that people who work within can always be a point of risk for the organization. And they can cause risk issues, whether accidentally or intentionally. And so when it comes to normally these insiders, they say that, look, they normally have certain indicators you look out for, like how you identify someone you may be working with, or even you yourself may be potentially a malicious insider. One is disgruntlement, right? So if someone is normally always complaining, he's not happy, he's peeved about everything that is done in the company, it's likely this person is going to be a potential insider. There's also unusual enthusiasm, unusual frequent trips, and unexplained changes in financial circumstances. Now, me and you all started this way together. I know the car you're riding, or a year later, you are riding the latest Range Rover. What is happening? All of these are what indicators of insider threat, right? Now, I'll end off on this by talking about an insight that was done recently, research within the financial sector. And they found that, look, over 60% of the bank staff in Ghana, they want to quit over low salaries, unrealistic targets, and stuff like that. When you see information like this, and I'm the banks, the moment I see this, I will need to change my operations. Because these are all teetering around the disgruntlement. People will eventually get disgruntled if they are still working here, and this is how they truly feel. They want to leave. So eventually what happens? Eventually they become targets that can be used to cause harm to the company. Some criminal syndicates can hire them to do something within, and then before you know it, everything is crumbling down. We've seen some people examples. Let's look at some process examples. So processes are talking about the way we do things, the way we do things within our business operations. And we are saying that some of the way we do things can introduce risk to the company, right? So let's look at some of the ways we do this. Right? Scenario one is looking at the way we even onboard new staff, right? There are serious gaps in our background checks. I don't think we even do a comprehensive background check enough. We just say, okay, you are hiring this person. Have they gone to the police station? Do you go to the police station? Do you have any bad records? And we forget that there are so many loopholes in our system because the police can only give information about someone who has been convicted, not someone who has been, if they accuse someone of stealing and he never goes to jail or he's never tried to go to jail, he will not appear in the police records, right? So there are gaps. There are people who have said that they live at places they didn't live, educational certificates are fake. All of these things are gaps that if you don't account for, you end up hiring people you don't really know, and they can cause harm to your company. And the classical example I want to give on that is the case of people who are hired because, of a need. Maybe you need a sales and marketing person. The person is not getting a job. So he puts up a sales and marketing experience on their CV. But unknown to you, this person is some cyber guru who has done courses in NIT for like years. And you give this person who's a sales, you think he's sales, you give him a machine, and then he's connected to your network, and he gets bored. He decides to try running some of these network scanners and hacking tools. And before you know it, right, the person you don't have visibility of has been able to cause a harm, All of this as a result of what checks in our background check procedures. Each time we do background checks actually to help organizations address this gap. But that is not the focus of this. My idea is to tell you that this risk is what affects a lot of organizations. And in the case of the lady I showed you at Stanbic, she was actually someone that if they did a proper background checks, they would have been able to spot that 2 organizations ago where she worked, she was accused of something similar. Let's talk about the risk of logging organizational visits. So this is a process, right? There's a process of when people come, you log their information. Hey, you come to see who. When are you come to see? Sign in, sign out. And how do we normally do it? We give them some big foolscap sheets, which contains the details of everyone else who has visited that day and their numbers and all of that. This is a very big risk because this information, someone can just simply come to the organization pretending to be looking for someone and harvest all these details. And then you wonder, where do the Momos scammers get my numbers from? I've given you one avenue. There are better ways of collecting people's logs when it comes to organizations, right? But the way we do it currently exposes a lot of information to people. There's also the risk of how we dispose our data and our information. So the data, I'm talking about like cyber, the way you remove and you erase a disk, maybe because you want to reassign it to some new employee. You know that there are softwares and forensic tools that can be run to recover deleted information, right? So the CEO's computer, you don't just hand it over with this hard disk just to any other person because they said they will reformatted it. No, there are proper ways of cleaning it. Because if not that, then someone can recover and gain confidential information that you thought you had deleted. It applies also to physical rubbish. Okay, so physical trash, the kind of papers we throw away in our dumps, some containing pay slip information, we made a mistake with the printing, all this information, someone can go through our dumps and be able to make sense of it and be able to target people or target organizations in all sorts of attacks, right? So we've covered the first two, the people and then the processes. Let's look at the technology, because this is really what this session is even about, right? The technology aspect. And the technology is referring to any systems, devices, right, that are used for practical purposes. Basically, the tools, right, and software we use within our environment. Again, I'll encourage you that if you have any questions, right, you can put them within the chat. If you have any questions, you can put them within the chat. If there's any feedback, perhaps you feel that maybe I can speed up a bit more, I can slow down further, I would like you to put all of this in the chat and I'll take it on board. So Madam Adelaide, Madam Hilda, your questions are not forgotten. We'll get back to it. in the course of the presentation. Okay. Any other questions you can put there, or any other feedback, you can drop them there, right? So with technology, let's look at some of the examples of the technological risk, right? Now, time will not permit me to demonstrate, but the point is every computer that you have, most computing devices, they have a name, right? They have a name that they are used to identify them on either the computer themselves or on the network. Now, some of these names, by default, they look like things like this, right? Desktop, DS, all of the machines and computers you're using, they have these kind of names. The problem and the risk we are talking about here is when people decide to name a computer, because you can change this name, right? There's an option to change the name of a machine. Sometimes we name a machine in some ways that make it lucrative or look interesting to hackers to target. For example, you go to an organization and then you do a quick scan of their network and you see a machine that has the name sales computer, CEO computer, finance PC. If you are a hacker and you are within such an environment and you see a machine that its name is CEO PC, would you not be interested in going after it? Exactly. So with the names and the way in which we are naming computers is one of the ways in which we are exposing a risk that could make this machine subject to quite a few attacks. Let's look at the risk scenario 2. Okay, the risk scenario 2 is talking about whenever you buy a device, maybe like those of you who have purchased the MTN internet or TableNet, all of these things. Whenever you buy a device, it comes with a default username and password for which you can use to log on. It is advised that whenever any device that you purchase and you have this username and password, you're supposed to change them, right, to something more secure or some other thing. But normally the default one is very simple, so that you can easily set it up. Maybe it's admin, and then you are gone. When you do not change this default credentials and default passwords of both your devices and sometimes some softwares that you run, when someone gains access to your environment, one of the easiest ways they try to gain access to a protected system is to type the default username and password. Let me try it. Username admin, password admin, or username 1234, password 123, and then they gain access to a system that is supposed to be protected. So it's one of the risks that is often overlooked, and it's something that organizations need to pay attention to. The third risk scenario on technology that we are considering is the use, it's not the use, right, but the uncontrolled use of remote administration software. So when you're talking about remote administration software, you are talking about software that you can use if you install on a system. They allow you to remotely connect to that system and be able to work on it. It's normally used by IT teams for troubleshooting. So a company has multiple branches, and then branch A is having a problem. They say, oh, call IT. They remotely connect your machine using some of these software, and then they are able to fix the issue. The problem is the uncontrolled use of this. Some organizations don't even have policies that address how you should use the software. So each and anyone can just install it on any machine that they want. And this is how e-crime were involved in investigations involving one IT person who was sacked for some bad behavior or whatnot. And when he went to all the servers within their environment, their computers, he had remote software, the remoting software still on them. So he was angry about the way they dismissed him. So he remotely connected to them and formatted all the machines, cleaned all their drives, and then they couldn't work with files anymore. It's a risk that needs to be considered because these tools are very easy to set up and they are easily available, and organizations need to pay attention to how they are being used. We are also looking in technology risk associated with the use of malicious software, or what we call malware. So when you ever hear malware or malicious software, it's the same thing. Malicious software or malware are software that are designed to cause harm or damage or some kind of malicious activity on the system. And one example is this. So we are looking at a few examples. One is the keylogger. The keylogger is a software or a malware that has been designed to be able to steal whatever you type on your keyboard. So if you look at my screen right now, right, there's a keylogger that has been displayed. And this keylogger, what it's doing is that once it's installed on this system, everything the person types on their keyboard is recorded. So you are using a machine, But you do know if this machine, this thing is installed on it. If you don't know, whatever you are typing, every website you visit, every credit card information you type is being recorded, every single thing. And it can be sent to the person who installed that keylogger. Talking of more ways, another one that we want to talk about is the case study we started with, where the girls' files got encrypted. That is ransomware. So ransomwares are software that if you install, they can leave your machine like this. So if you come and then you see that all your files are looking some way, they are all looking white, you are already gone. Your system has been compromised and they have encrypted all your files. And this is how an encrypted file may look like. And then they will put the encryption note there that, look, if you want your files back, you need to pay this and this amount of money. Another risk I want us to consider in the technology space is how some of us, when we go to websites and they ask us, hey, do you want me to save your password? And obviously you say yes, because it makes things convenient, it's easier. But when you say yes, do you ever ask yourself, these passwords I'm saying that they should remember so that next time I don't have to type, where is this saved at? For the most part, it's saved on your machine. And with certain software, like what you are seeing here, you can actually be able to run it when you get physical access to anyone's machine, and you can pull out all the passwords that they have saved on their computer. The ones that when they are using their web browser, they visit and then they ask them. And that's dangerous because some of you have saved a lot, from your corporate details to even your personal things like your Facebook and co. Right? Like your Facebook and co. Another risk within the technology space that you may want to look at is the risk associated with some of you see, organizations have limited people from installing software to control some of these cyber risks. But what they've not paid attention to is the browser that people have been using, whether it is Google Chrome or Firefox. People actually have the ability to install software within their browser. This software, they call them extensions, and they can do quite a lot. So if an organization is not paying attention to this, some people can install certain software that can let them bypass some of the organization's policies, including perhaps some restrictions on websites they are not supposed to visit and all of that. And I'm bringing this up for this class to consider because it's one of the risk areas what we have to look at. The risk examples are many when it comes to the cyberspace. From the case of the people being able to save their passwords and it's being accessible to people, to even sometimes the mobile applications we download. Because if you look at this second screen, this is a mobile application I'm downloading. But look at what kind of accesses this mobile application is asking from me before I install it. It's telling me that by installing it to have access to my phone calls, my drive, my storage on my system. And some of these things we don't pay attention to. You just take your corporate phone and you just start installing any software on it. But if this software has access to your contacts and all of those information, it means that it can possibly use that and send it to some external hacker somewhere who designed this application. So simply all I'm just saying is that even your mobile applications may not be safe if you don't take in the right, the necessary steps. And these are all risk areas to consider, and there are many and many of them. This class or this session, right, we can't exhaust all of them. We are just looking at a few of them and the prevalent one. And the question is, how do we address these risks? That is where cyber risk management comes in. So cyber risk management is looking at these risks that happen around people, processes, and technology, and it's looking at how we can address them and what are some of the ways we can do that. So these are some of the 5 pillars or most of the ways you can use to address cyber risk or manage them within your environment. The first is to adopt a framework. So when you're adopting a framework, what it simply means is that, look, you are new to the cyberspace, but there are certain organizations that have been working with cyber for a long time. The standards authorities in the world, ISO and whatnot, their job is to actually look at the way IT is supposed to be and IT operations are supposed to be and set the correct path. So they have created what we call frameworks. And these frameworks, we are encouraging that if you want to manage your risk, adopt one of these frameworks. Adopting the framework means that go get one of these frameworks, which contains the methods and procedures and things you have to do to identify risk and control them within your environment. Everything is there. The template you need, everything is there. Just adopt one for your organization and use it. You can also conduct what we call an IT risk assessment. But most importantly here, one of the things you need to do is you need to have policies to address these risks. So right now in this webinar, I'm expecting that some of these things, if you never consider them as risk, I expect that you go to your companies and then the policies you advise that, look, we need to put something there that can address someone remotely using remote software without control. With the frameworks, there are many of them, right? ISO has some, the National Institute of Standards and Technology in the US, they have a few frameworks. You can simply go and get any of these templates, right? And you can decide as an organization, wow, we want to use this ISO framework to manage our risk effectively. And there are many of them, right? At the end of the day, you just go with a framework that best speaks to your business processes. One of the steps also in addressing and managing your risk is doing what we call a risk assessment. This can be done internally, or you can get, hey, Osman, don't be scared. There's more. Osman says he's scared in the chat, but don't be scared. I mean, this is just a tip of the iceberg. But this is also why we are talking about risk management. If you adopt a good framework, trust me, you'll be able to identify all these risks and address them, and you'll be living in a very safe environment. So risk assessment is a process whereby you want to identify all the risk on your cyber assets within your environment, right? And address them. And it's one of the solutions also as part of the risk management strategy. You can do it internally, or you can get a company like, let's say, maybe eCrime or some other security company to come and help you identify the risk that are within your environment and address them. But look, none of that will be possible if you don't identify the assets that are in your company. So as you sit in this webinar, your company should have an asset sheet that has tracked all the computers and all the digital assets that you have. Because without it, you can't perform a proper risk assessment. Because you need to know your assets, then you can know what issues can affect these assets. Those are the risks we are talking about. And you can see how best to address them, right? So risk assessment, this is the process. And with a risk assessment, normally you can do it towards a quantitative perspective or a qualitative perspective. Quantitative simply means that at the end of your risk assessment, you'll be able to come up with some money, right? Some quote to say that, hey, management, look, if these are the risks that are within our environment, if we don't address it, we could lose potentially 55,000 every month as a result of not addressing this. So quantitative is looking at a process where after the risk assessment, you are dealing with figures, quantities, right? But the qualitative is more so that, look, the likelihood that some of these issues that are within our environment is more like opinions, right? Or some rating system, like, hey, when we did an assessment, we found that, look, we have high risk. So if we don't address them, we could potentially suffer X and Y. It doesn't care about the numbers, quantitative cares about that, right? And there are certain tools and processes you can use in the IT environment, because you're talking about technology, that can help you with your risk assessment. So these tools will not go do the entire risk assessment, like being able to identify your assets and all that, but they can do most of it, right? And some of them are commercial, some of them are free. You can use these tools to be able to identify the risks that are with your cyber assets within your company. Again, if you need assistance, and I will recommend you do, because that's what eCrime has been doing. You can engage eCrime and companies like ours to help you with your risk assessment so that at least you can know where you stand. If you think the commercials are too expensive for this, you can do what we call a gap analysis. It's a service we provide, but others provide it as well, where you basically just assess all your risk from every perspective, not just IT. But you want to see even your company in terms of your policies, are you ready for accepting, like dealing with IT risk? Can do a comprehensive one like that. There's a gap analysis we provide it, but I believe it's one thing you can also do to know your risk from a bigger perspective. But these are tools that you can use to some of them are free, some of them are commercial, to help you with your risk assessment. Now, once you have identified your risk, you need to respond to them, right? So risk response is basically looking at how do you deal with the risk that you have seen. And there are basically 4 approaches to handling risk. You can either transfer your risk, let's say, to an insurance company. And now there's a few insurance companies within the country that are providing cyber insurance. eCrime is assisting some of them to help them ascertain some of those insurance claims. But you can transfer your risk if you believe that you don't have the means to protect yourself. So if you get hacked or something, some insurance company should pay for the losses. You can also reduce your risk by, this is the simplest approach, deploying a control measure or some measure to address that risk. Or if you think that, look, this risk is not a big deal, if they even take advantage of this vulnerability, we'll be fine. We can accept the risk. And then some people choose to avoid the risk. How? Avoiding is not putting your head in the sand like the ostrich does, but avoiding simply means that if they say that my email system is what is bringing me risk, I've stopped using emails. Now we all use letters. We write each other pen pals stories in the company. That's a bad strategy, but that's one of the ways that people can deal with risk, by avoiding the risk. One thing you have to understand and appreciate is that, and this is as we are coming to a conclusion, is that when you are talking about risk, it is not a cut, and the risk an organization deals with is not standard across all companies. Even if you may be using the same equipment, you are using the same IT tools, the risk that company A can deal with is not the same as company B can deal with. Maybe a particular company can afford insurance, so they have just insured everything in their cyber domain. You cannot. So the risk appetite is talking about the level of risk an organization is willing to accept. I want you to understand this so that you don't think that whatever applies to organization A in terms of dealing with their risk will apply to what you as well. It varies from place to place. So we are going to end the session by talking about a tabletop exercise, right? The tabletop exercise is just to simulate in a situation of some kind of attack or something, right? Or an incident, how would you handle it? So this tabletop exercise is saying that, look, and this one is being posed to all of you who are on this webinar. And it's saying, and you are receiving this scenario from the perspective of, you can be a manager, you can be an IT person. Basically, this is what is happening, right? It says you receive phone calls from staff. So let's assume we are managers in this case, right? We receive several phone calls from staff that they are receiving strange emails from the hospital's HR manager. The email says that they should update their employee records as part of HR policy. Failure to do so may result in delayed salaries. Once they click the embedded form that they are going to use to update their records, they are redirected. That's in, so they are taken to their login screen, right? As in normally, so your email, there's a place you normally log in. They have taken sometimes whatever they click by the HR manager has taken them there. And after logging in, nothing happens. So this is the tabletop exercise. So the question I want to ask, and this one I'm going to toss to a few people in the call, right? So I'm specifically just mentioning people I can see, right? So Mr. Rendolf-Garte, are you on the call? Did you hear this particular tabletop exercise? In this situation, what do you think is happening? As we are waiting for him, right? I'll go to Madam Teresa. And then, are you on the call? Right, with this tabletop exercise, what do you think is happening here? Right, Madam Teresa is quiet or is silent. I don't know. We are on lunch, so I'm surprised people are having some quick bites or something, right? But I'll ask, Madam Adelaide, are you on the call? Can you hear me? Madam Adelaide, can you hear me? Okay, what about Madam Mercy?
Yes, please. Yes, please, I can hear you.
All right, Madam Adelaide, do you have an idea what is happening here with this description or this scenario playing out? Do you have an idea?
Yes, please.
What do you think is happening?
I think the firm is being attacked by an outsider threat.
That is true. That is true. In fact, you know what? I'll take the answer. Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, the firm is being attacked. And the person who is attacking it, if you look at the way the thing has been couched, it's actually impersonating the HR manager. So the person is sending mails pretending to be the HR manager and is telling these employees that, look, HR policies dictate that they need to update their employee records. Now look at the part that is interesting. This is when you know that you are dealing with cyber criminals, because they always try to use social engineering or some psychological manipulation. That's what, if they don't update their records, it may result in delayed salaries. So this one, people see it, hey, wow, they can't afford that. they click the link, and the link takes them to what? Their login screen. So what you're actually seeing here, the truth is, it's a phishing incident, right? Where some criminal is using some emails impersonating the HR manager to try to get people to visit a screen that looks like their login screen. And when they try to log in, they are actually harvesting their credentials, their usernames and their passwords. So this is something to think around. I'm tossing this to you because I want you to play this in your environment. Do you think it's something that can happen? And if it were to happen, right, is there a procedure to addressing this? Who will handle it, right? Who do you call when it comes to things like that? Well, what is the procedure and manner that people follow? Is there even an approach or policy in your environment that says that if you receive things like this, call this one first, call that one first? If you don't have any of these things in your environment, if you don't have any tools that can even detect some of these things, then understand that you are bathing or you are bathing in cyber risk. And it is only a matter of time someone will take advantage of it to actually cause harm, right? The webinar has been about looking at risk management from the perspective of technology. And this is the end of the webinar presentation. So at this point and at this juncture, it's likely we'll be going into the questions and answers. Madam Hilda is saying that, look, she thinks that the HR manager should be called for confirmation. That's a very good suggestion. Yes, when you're dealing with mails like this, you expect people to call to say that, hey, madam, please, you called me. I saw this mail. Was it from you? It's true. It's a very good strategy. The only problem is that sometimes people don't, because of sometimes the way and manner in which some of these messages are crafted. Because look at this. Look at the way they've crafted this, saying that, may result in delayed salaries. People see the delayed salaries and their minds just snap. That's the point of social engineering, right? To manipulate your emotions. So when people hear delayed salaries, they get emotional. And the proper things they were supposed to do, they don't. And then they fall victim to some of these attacks. So Madam Hilda, look, your suggestion is actually perfect. You need to call to verify some of these things. Madam Mercy is saying, wow, I don't know what the wow was for, but wow, right back at you. Now, let me use opportunity before I hand over to to the IoD team, right? The CEO. I'd like to answer the questions that are within the chat, and then possibly, they will take it from there. And then if you have any questions, look, just raise your hand or just type it in the chat, and then we'll address that. But for the most part of the content, we are done. Okay, we are done. Now, I hope we're able to stick to time because we don't want to do that Ghana man time thing here. Now, the first question was from Madam Hilda Answer. She says that yes, it's from Madam Hilda again. She says, how will you be able to detect that the update is not from the right source? And it's a very brilliant question because she was actually referencing when I talked about this example. When I said this particular company, there was an update that was done, and by virtue of that, people got compromised. So in this situation and in this scenario, how do you detect some of these things? So there are a lot of solutions and there are a lot of approaches towards it, right? In this case, but there's also the admittance of the fact that sometimes, to be honest with you, and I'm just being honest with you, it's almost impossible to detect these things because the criminals, whatever it is that you use to detect, it's like they have, it's a new attack, okay? So no one knows about it. So the procedure and methods of which they went about it, like no antivirus knows how to detect it. So there are cases, there are novel cases where you can't do anything when it comes to detecting these things. All you can do is to make sure that, look, when it comes to updating of your software, you take that control from maybe the average user, right? So not someone behind their machine saying that I want to update my software, they click it. No, it shouldn't be possible for you. That maybe an IT team or a security team can handle that, or maybe a managed cybersecurity service team, right? Maybe crime or whatever, can handle this in whereby before an update is done, they review the update. Is this update safe? What are people saying about updates? Then they take it through certain tests. They usually call it change management, right? You take it through some of these tests, and when you think the update is safe, you issue it out. So one thing you can do is take the control of updating from the employees and assign it to a specific person, right? Or a specific group. The second thing that you can do with regards to this is also to possibly purchase for yourself an organizational firewall, right? So normally a firewall, what it does is that it sits at the border of your organization where people go to the internet. So before you go to the internet, normally you're supposed to pass through the firewall. So what these firewalls can then be taught to do is to inspect every interaction people are doing, at least when it comes to internet activities on their machines, so that when you have issued an update on your system and it's going to pull the update files, and then the firewall checks and see that these update files you are pulling, one of them looks a bit suspicious, so we'll block it. So technologically, you can look at the firewall, but strategically, you can take the control of updating from the individual and then using assigned security teams who follow a process. And normally, any of these risk management frameworks I talked about, they document ways you can use to address some of these risks, right? So, Madam Hilda, I don't know if you can hear me, but did I address your question to your satisfaction?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Now, I move on to Madam Adelaide Japan. She is saying that from my submissions on vulnerabilities, does that mean that every website or app has a loophole? So, this statement is similar to saying that, do we have weaknesses as human beings? Like, so Madam Adelaide, do you have any weaknesses or you have none?
I have a lot.
Ah, sure. If you said you had none, I would have just disconnected you from the call. Okay. But what do we do about our weaknesses as people? What we do is we acknowledge them and we work on them to make them, so to reduce them. It's the same thing with almost any website or any technology product, right? As far as it was made by people, as far as it was created by people, as far as it uses technology, there will always be weaknesses on any of the systems we use. The idea is to find the best possible strategies by sometimes adopting some of these frameworks that can let you identify as many weaknesses as possible, right? And be able to address them. But that is an answer with respect to your question. Madam Ali, does that satisfy you?
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Right. Okay, so Michael had a contribution to the same, the tabletop exercise that we had, the one that we did at the end, right? The tabletop exercise we did at the end. And then, sorry about that. My slides went on for just a minute. I will quickly bring that up. But Michael had a contribution to that case study, right? And that case study simply says that Michael suggested that, give me a second, I've missed that. Yes, so Michael Ashley is saying that first you tell your staff to not reply to the email until you get back to them. Meanwhile, you make a follow-up with the IT manager and HR. So Michael, fantastic. Especially emails. If any email in particular is telling people to take an action, telling you to take an action, click this, do this, you need to verify some of this information. The verification process is what you're talking about, right? Reach out to, make a follow-up with the IT manager, with HR. These are what you're receiving. Can you take a look at it? You don't sit on some of these issues, especially when they are suspicious. So you don't. Thank you very much, Michael, for that. Osman is saying, can we get the presentation? I'll let the IoD team handle this, but I believe that they have already made a reservation for this. Okay, so I'll let the IoD team handle this. But there's a question that you had, Osman, after that asking about the presentation, which is, are some web browsers safer than others? That's a very interesting question. Are some web browsers safer than others? So what I can say is this, okay, I'll quickly stop sharing my screen and I want to show you something, okay? So what I can say is this, there are certain web browsers that have been designed, so inherently, not all I can't say all web browsers are safe or every web browser has its strengths and figures, right? Things that make them excel. But there are some web browsers that have been designed for security or with security in mind, right? And one of it is this. So I'm going to share briefly on one of such web browsers that I know, and there are other ones out there. Okay, this one is called Brave. Okay, this one is called Brave. So this web browser is called Brave. That's the name, B-R-A-V-E, right? And what it does is it tries its best to limit You know, certain websites are tracking so much information about you. You visit this site and suddenly you are visiting baby products. And the moment you go on Facebook, suddenly they are advertising baby products to you. What's happening? Good. They are tracking a lot of information about you. So what Brave tries to do is to limit a lot of this tracking. So you see that by opening the browser alone, it tells me what it has blocked about 16 trackers and apps and advertisements that are loading. So with this browser, for example, those ads that pop up and then they tend to cause you to visit certain websites you don't plan or intended to visit, you know, they can do it. So Brave is an example of that. So in short, in answering your question, yes, some web browsers are designed with security in mind, and Brave is one of them. There are others, okay? I'm not trying to advertise or market Brave or anything, but yes, to answer your question, there are a few web browsers out there. I'm just giving an example of the one I know off my head. Madam Mercy is asking, thank you for, about the presentation. The IoD team, look, on behalf of the IoD team, I think they've set up a very wonderful session, and they have been very much involved in what we are seeing here. Okay, thank you for that. But she says, okay, but I want to know, is it advisable to train all staff on these cyber risks or only IT staff in one's organization? It's a very good question. I like this question because if you're not careful and then you're just exposing all the kind of IT risks that are there to every staff, what you end up doing is that when you're dealing with cases whereby you have a malicious insider, he will be interested in some of the risks that, wow, he's seen that he didn't know about, but now he can take advantage of. So what I would say is that, look, the risk have to be situated in the context of the person's role. If the person is doing work that's because of their work, they are likely to encounter this and this and this and this and these kinds. Some risks are generic. They are like phishing, for example. It can happen to everyone, but some are role specific. So in trainings, right, you want to be able to do role-based training. So when we do trainings, actually, we try not to lump everyone in. We do trainings for audits, we do trainings for general staff, we do trainings for front staff, and for them, the examples and the things you cite are a bit different, okay, from across board. So that's how you handle that, right? That's how you handle it. Madam, I believe this was Madam Mercy. Madam Mercy, are you okay with that answer?
Yes, please.
Fantastic. Osman, I've not heard you yet. Were you okay with what I suggest with regards to the browsers and their safety?
Yes, I'm quite happy. I think it's quite fantastic. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Osman. Thank you. Right. Enoch is asking about the presentation again. Already IoT.
I'll speak to that. I'll speak to that.
All right. So at this moment, I want to officially hand over to Mr. Frederick. Mr. Frederick, IT from the IoD team. I want to thank you also for the opportunity of being able to lead this session. And the floor is yours. The mic is yours. There are any questions?
Thank you so very much, Mr. Quaye. It's been a great time, and we've sort of picked and learned quite a lot. The questions and the contributions coming have been very insightful. I think we have Madame Mary Ajipon. I saw a hand up. So maybe we would listen to Madame Mary Ajipon, who I saw. Okay. Please, are there more questions or more contributions? I know Mr. Quaye has answered a number of questions, but I believe that we'll still have some time. So we want to still hear some more voices in terms of contribution. Maybe you want to share some experience. I can see Mr. Renovgati. Before Mr. Renovgati would unmute himself and make his contribution, what I would say is that the slides will not be shared. What we will share is that we will share the recording. The recording is what we would share. And so members should expect that the Secretariat will send the recording of this e-seminar to them. So Mr. Gatti, please, you can unmute yourself and make your contribution. Thank you. Mr. Gatti's hand is up, and please, you can unmute yourself and make your contribution, Mr. Gatti. Okay, it appears that we cannot hear Mr. Gatti. Any more contribution, any more comments?
Yes, can I say something?
Yes, please.
Okay, I want to say that first of all, commend the IoD for the insight. I think it's very, very important, and it's timely because of what is going on around. And researchers are also interested in these areas. And I know a few schools, particularly for All Nations University, they're also thinking of enrolling courses in such an area, highlighting the importance of these cyber security issues. And I think that it's a call in the right direction, and more of this will also help. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Kumsin, for the insightful contribution. Thank you so very much. Any more contributions? Any more contributions? Okay, I can see some comments in the chat box from Mr. John Bosco Ansura, and he says, our organization largely depends on the use of personal computers. How do we do risk assessment on them? Mr. Quaye, our organization largely depends on the use of personal computers. How do we do risk assessment on them? I know you've sort of had some comments on this during the presentation, but I believe maybe you'd want to add to that.
All right. Thank you very much for that. It's a good question. Look, and I'm also appreciating Mr. John Bosco's submission, because well, at the end of the day, not every we are talking about resources, and not every organization can afford to buy machines. And no, they are going through a phase. So perhaps personal machines have to be dependent upon at a point in time. So look, if you look at risk assessment, what we are saying is that if you are largely dependent on personal computers, you need to first and foremost. So these are just some ideas off the top of my head based on practice within the sector, but there are definitely more. That's, I'm sure that after this call, we can get in touch so we can discuss further, right? But one of the things you want to do is be able to identify all these computers, right? All these computers that are using. So when I say identify, I mean that you need to have a proper registry of all these personal machines, right? That connect to your network or the resources in your environment to do work. So you need to have visibility of them. That's one, right? So document all of them. And the kind of information you are documenting, things like the machine's name, the IP address, and MAC address. There's certain technical details you may want to pick up. We can talk further on this, but you need to document on them, right? Now, what you can do is that you can put some, develop some kind of policy. So this brings me to the policy angle. So develop some kind of policy about their usage. So the policy is looking at the potential risk that come with using personal machines. And what are some of these potential risks? Well, some of these machines could be having malicious software on them. Some of them could be having content that allows them to be able to do cloud sharing. So company policies, they just upload it to Google Drive. So there can be a few things. So identify all these potential risk scenarios, which again, like I said, you can provide consultation on that, but you develop the policy, right? Start with identifying your assets, develop the policies which will ensure how things should be done to avoid certain risk areas and risk issues. And then you can assist the process with some technology assistance, some technology help. So if you can't afford to buy machines, at least you can afford to buy an endpoint detection system like antivirus. And nowadays, the antivirus they are very advanced. What it means is you can install it on a system and you can be able to monitor the activities of the antivirus from remote, even if the person is not at where they are, that's where they are supposed to be working. So you can get any of these endpoint detection system running on their system, so that if they can't use a firewall, at least a good antivirus will be taking and handling the threats that they will come along with when they are using their devices or their personal devices. You also want to make sure that if any of these people who are using their personal machines, right, all their email accounts have what we call two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication. And what that simply means is that you set a setting on their email, and this can be captured in your policy, right? That, or if you're going to use your machine, then your emails that you use for corporate work and whatnot, you have to have two-factor enabled. And what that means is you will configure maybe an additional phone number or some use a special app that whenever you are trying to log in, you have to get a text message with a code to complete the login process. And you are doing this to address the phishing threat. So that when someone even steals their password without access to their phones, it minimizes the impact of what they can do. So let's do a summary of what I've said. Identify all those assets that are the personal assets people are using, right? To the policies. This one, the policies, you can even put them at one, but develop policies around the use of personal devices. You can draft a few things, you can task eCrime to develop some policies for you on that regard, right? 3, you can assist them with technology and by getting an antivirus solution for them. And 4, you can help them protect their accounts by enabling 2-factor authentication on their work emails so that it protects them from account takeover scenarios. So with this in place, I believe that you should be able to address some of the risks that come with a personal device usage. There are others, there are more, but I think you can talk more on this. But these are things that you can start doing right away. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Quaye. We have Mr. Elisha Akun. Mr. Akun, please, you have the floor to make your comments.
Right, very, very grateful. Very insightful. That was very. But I want to find out from if I can have a system where can support organizations. My organization probably deals with a lot of emails where I think gadgets are very expensive. Do they have any gadgets that or any that where maybe they can track my emails, find out whether I have any that's for this. Do they have a system like that one?
Mr. Quaye, it appeared Mr. Akun's line was breaking somehow, but please, were you able to get a gist of his contribution or question?
I couldn't. So I was going to advise that if possible, can he also type it on the chat, right? So that we can address it from there. Because I was also having a bit of a challenge being able to hear some parts of it.
Okay, good. So, Mr. Akun, we still want to sort of listen to your contribution or answer the question that you asked. I would respectfully and humbly request that you put that in the chat box, and then we can handle that.
Right, right. So please, whilst he's doing that, I just want to do a follow-up on Mr. Bosco's question from before, right? That in a situation whereby with all the advisories that are given, right, it's a challenge in implementing some of these controls, especially for the personal devices. There's a solution that currently, well, it's available. ICRAM has made available also to some of our clients that allow you to be able to. It's called Harmony, right? So Harmony is a solution that basically allows organizations to deploy on certain like on either your mobile phones of people or personal devices like laptops and things like that. And it's basically handling the security and identifying some of these issues, checking certain websites that are bad, that can cause problems, just blocking them and then alerting the user and whatnot. And it can all be managed centrally from one point. And the solution is quite cheap, right? So it's one of the solutions that if all the things I've advised, are difficult to implement, you can get in touch. Let's see and try setting this up and let's observe it ourselves like a demonstration, right? For about 1 week on these personal devices, and let's see if it's really being able to address the kind of vulnerabilities or issues that come with a personal device usage. I'll go back to the chat now. So with the chat, I'm hoping that Mr. Elisha.
Yes, Mr. Akun has put that comment there, so maybe I think.
Okay.
Yes.
So he wants to know if ICRAM has a system to detect and assist email systems against threats for organizations. Yes, so to answer this question, so what ICRAM does is in 2 phases. The first one is to provide the assessment to be able to identify some of the weaknesses in your email setup, right? Or your email system that can allow maybe some kind of criminals to be able to send you some of these unsolicited mails and some bad emails that can compromise people, right? So the assessment is really one of the key things, so that because you don't want to go and sell a solution to someone who already has the solution, right? So they don't have that problem. So you want to assess to see where you stand, so that we recommend what the best solution would be. But in terms of being able to actually have a system in place, yes, we have some technology partners that we've been working with, Mimecast is inclusive, that can help you put some controls in place, that some of these email attacks and things that are coming from the email side, or they will be blocked before they get to you. I'll be pasting also within the link, right? Some solution that anyone that would want to access at the basic level, right? Their email infrastructure, if it has any weaknesses. It's just a free tool that was released by the National Cybersecurity Center in the UK. You can do this assessment yourself for your organization or for anyone, and then be able to see some weaknesses that you have. So in that, I hope I have answered your question, Mr. Elijah. We do that assessment to confirm the state of your email security. And we have some technology partners that can help you put things in place so that, when it comes to email threats, you can be able to block and then address them. But I'm also providing a free tool for everyone, which is by the National Cybersecurity Center in the UK, for addressing and identifying your basic email threats and whatnot. So this is really our approach towards it: assess and then advise. Okay. Yes, Mr. Elisha says his question is answered, so I'm very glad. Thank you so much, Mr. Elisha.
Very good.
Elisha is quite known. It's quite good in the cybersecurity field.
Yes.
I've worked with him a few times.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So I think, thank you very much. Time check. We have about 8 more minutes to go. And what I would want to say here is that I believe very much that we've had very exciting afternoon to appreciate the fact that in the modern world, right, managing cyber risk in the era of technology, right, is very important for directors, for leaders, for managers, for operatives, in fact, across the business, wherever you have to really apply technology. It's very important that you appreciate the risk and so on involved. Indeed, it's also very important for us to sort of appreciate that in this recent times, where COVID is giving us an indication that within the pandemic era, many of us had to work from home or from remote locations, and the kind of exposure that we had. Of course, we can work from remote locations, but it's also very important that we appreciate that there are cost implications when there are some kind of infractions or challenges in terms of cyber risk. And at the minute, a lot and many things are happening. At the Institute of Directors Ghana, we will continue to provide a platform or the enabling environment for us to share ideas, for us to bring experts either from within the institute or from our partners such as E-Crime Bureau, for us to sharpen our source and to ensure that our organizations are being governed or as it were, being managed or being run well, to ensure that the benefits that individuals, employees, managers, leaders, and Mother Ghana as a whole, and for that matter, the continent, seek to achieve, they are achieved. I would also want to take this opportunity to sort of invite those of us on this platform who are not members of the Institute of Directors Ghana to sort of join the Institute. We believe very much that once I've indicated the mandate as we have, and I want to go over it again, that the Institute of Directors Ghana is a corporate governance institute mandated under the Professional Bodies Act to champion director professionalism. So we believe very much that to serve on a board, to be a manager, to be a leader, to be head of a department, to really work in an organization, there are many things that you can work and you can learn. And as you learn them, you need to be very professional about that. And we are very keen in terms of the development, advocacy training, and research. And so the more members we have, the more ambassadors we have out there to champion good corporate governance practices. And for that matter, we are very happy once again to have you all on this program. Thanks to our members who have joined, and then also non-IoD members who also joined, and we appreciate that. And to become a member, there are 2 routes. One is direct admission, and the second one also is through training of going through 7 modular courses. Each modular course is 6 contact hours, and by the time you finish the 7, then you can also earn a certificate in corporate governance. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. And we are very grateful to Mr. Quaye. And at this stage, I would want to invite Dr. Rejoice Foley. I can see one more. Okay, I think it's Mr. Quaye who has put a comment in the chat box. I was going to read that comment. And as I've indicated, we really will send the recording to members. And for that matter, that should be expected. Normally, we don't send the slides out. We are very grateful. Thank you so very much. And I also want to thank our corporate members, our partners, such as GMPC, Bank of Ghana, Zoom Lion, and Goyle, for the support they give the Institute to champion good corporate governance practices and also director professionalism. At this stage, I want to yield to Dr. Rejoice Wodomdeji Foley, a member of the Institute of Directors Ghana, to give us a closing prayer. Thank you very much. Dr. Rejoice.
Thank you, Mr. CEO, and thanks to our facilitator and the organizers of this program. I take this opportunity to also thank the media houses that we presented. On that note, I would like us to have a closing prayer. Father, we thank you for this session. We thank you that it's been a good one and very insightful. All the tidbits that we have studied, I pray that you help us to be able to apply it for our safety and avoid all the vulnerabilities that might impact, that will make us to lose money, prevent successful and effective work environmental culture, and also help us so that we can move forward by maintaining and ensuring good corporate governance. We thank you in Jesus' name, I pray. Amen.
Amen, and thank you so very much. And please watch this space for another exclusive e-seminar from the Institute of Directors Ghana. And as usual, communication will be shared with e-flyers for our next e-seminar. Thank you so very much. Have a very good afternoon. May God give us tomorrow. Bye and bye for now.